interactive live stream where the host and the audience have no idea who the weekly guest is other than it's a former or current ACC basketball star. Will that guest be a Tar Heel, a Blue Devil, a Demon Deacon, an ACC champion, an All-American? You'll have to play along to find out. And here's the secret keeper, the mystery maker, the ACC connection, the producer of Guest to Guest Live, Candace Cooper.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Guest to Guest Live, brought to you by Earfluence. We're streaming live on 99.9 WRL Sports Fan Facebook page, and that means you have a chance to be in on the action. Can you guess the guest before our host, Penn Holderness? We teased this one out earlier today, but our guest, one clue is he's a mystery guest who has been involved in one of the most iconic ACC tournament moments in history. There's that. That's all you get for today, Penn. If you can guess it first in the chat, you'll get internal bragging rights plus a pie of your choice from Slice Pie Company. All right, Penn. So most iconic moment in ACC tournament history. I feel like you're feeling it a little bit tonight.
Why do you always feel that way with me? You know that this makes me like, this is the worst. This is the worst 2 minutes of my week, like not knowing who this is. And then it's way better when we meet the guest, because the guest is always amazing.
There's so many.
I can think of a million iconic moments.
Okay, that's good. So you narrow it down to the ACC. So that's what it is.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right, guess you can turn your mic on. Don't turn on your camera. And Penn, ask away.
Well, hello, mystery guest. I'm just going to start with something easy, which we always do. Can you tell me, did you play for the University of North Carolina?
No.
No, okay. Did you play for North Carolina State University?
No.
Okay. Did you play for Duke University?
No.
Did you play for Wake Forest?
Yes.
Okay, we got a Wake Forest star. Whew. All right. So, as Candace knows, this is not my strong suit. I was telling her that that the older I get, the more people I forget. So, but we're going to see how this goes. Okay. Did you play for Wake Forest in the last 10 years?
No.
Okay. Did you play in the last 20 years?
No.
Last 30 years?
Yes.
Okay, so 1990 to 2000, Wake Forest. Man, those were some good years. I know we're still guessing, but I'm going to tell the story of the first time I played pickup ball with Rodney Rogers outside of Duke School of Science and Math, or Durham School of Science and Math. And he played with all of us lesser beings and was the nicest guy. But like, that was when I was like, oh, this is what an NBA player looks like. And he was 16 years old. It was crazy. Well, let's just do that. Did you play with Rodney Rogers?
Yes.
You did. Okay, so that gets us, because he went to college in 1991 or 1990, which if you played with him, that would put you in the early 90s. And my gosh, they had some great players back then. And we're talking about iconic moments. You know, just for fun, is this Rodney Rogers?
No.
Okay, good. All right. All right. So I don't know if this was. I'm going to go down a path here that I may just guess this right now, because there was one iconic moment from a Wake Forest player. I can't remember if it was in the ACC tournament, and it was Randolph Childress, and he did like a crossover on somebody, and then he put his hand up as if to say, "Oh my gosh, did I just do that?" And then like dropped a jumper from the baseline. Mm-hmm. I don't remember when that was, but I also know that Randolph Childress had a lot of iconic moments. So I'm just going to try to end this soon because I'm sick of not knowing who this person is. Is this Randolph Childress?
Yes, it is.
Yes! Oh, Randolph.
Okay. That was your best one. Look at that.
Thank you. Well, and it was Wake Forest. So look, you got lucky. I mean, because Randolph and I are roughly the same age. And as I told her, I have like black spots from like when I got out of college and I was trying to get a job and I couldn't watch as much basketball. But 90s, I did nothing but watch ACC basketball. So you, my friend, are well known.
That's good stuff. Well, congratulations to the first person to guess the guest. For your elite ACC knowledge, we are sending you a free pie from Slice Pie Company. If you haven't heard of Slice Pie, they are NC State Blue Ribbon award-winning pies, and they are simply the best. Choose from apple, chocolate chess, lemon meringue, so many to choose from, plus gluten-free and vegan options. You can visit their downtown Raleigh location or visit their new e-commerce website at slicepiecompany.com. And make sure you contact us with your details so we can get you that pie. So let's get right on into it. Obviously, the most iconic ACC tournament moment. Everyone knows the crossover. How often do people use that for you, Randolph?
Wow. Like I said, the kids will probably ask me more about it now when ACC tournament time comes around. So I'll get more from our players. They'll talk about it from time to time, and when that tournament comes around and that reel gets to rolling around, and walking around, people will bring it up.
Well, listen, I mean, you see that kind of play all the time in like 9 and 10-year-old AAU basketball now.
Right.
25 years ago, that was not a common thing to see.
Well, I think the one thing you won't see now is just the gesture for, in that moment to get up. I mean, that's considered a technical foul now, so you can't do that anymore. So I think that's the only thing I probably can hold on to as far as that won't be matched.
All right, so be honest. If that was against Georgia Tech, are you doing that?
No, it could have been anyone else. I think the only reason it happened was because if anyone knows Jeff's a talker.
Sorry, we should mention for those who don't know, you were talking about Jeff McInnes.
Yes, Jeff's a talker.
Okay.
So, and we at that time you could talk trash during the game. It wasn't a technical foul. We were allowed to talk, and so just two competitive guys going back and forth, and they had beaten us earlier in the year. And when they beat us in a close game, I think Jeff made a comment. They interviewed Jeff after the game, and his comment was, "We knew if we hung around, we felt like they would choke." And I kind of took that personal, and I was like, "Nah." So, we had played them again in Chapel Hill that year. We had beaten them at their place, and then that was in less than a week later. I think our second to last game was at Carolina. We played our final game, I think, against NC State, and then the tournament started. So it wasn't much time before we had played them again. So it was still fresh in my mind as far as remembering those words.
Can you share any? Yeah, go ahead, Candace.
He had an MJ The Last Dance moment where he took that personal. I just want everyone to hear that he took it personal, and then he ended up, crossing over his face.
Absolutely.
So absolutely. That's awesome.
I'd love to know what other words were shared between you and Jeff during the game. This is a PG-rated show, but I'd love to hear some of the rest of the conversation. I'm all ears. Candace and I'll just sit and listen.
No, you know what? Jeff would just talk. And if you know Jeff now, he's an energetic guy. We both are very passionate guys. And so it wasn't as much as him, he would make a move, or if he scored, or Jeff would talk if anyone scored, right? If Rasheed did something, or if Stack did something, he would say something about it. And I just would say to him, I'm like, you don't want to talk to me because I said, we can't go back and forth. You play at Carolina. You don't even get to shoot the ball. You got to pass it. I get to shoot it whenever I want. I play for Dave Holden. So you're not going to win this statistical matchup. So we went back and forth. And like I said, it was a lot of fun. Those were two top 10 teams in the country. And so they were obviously very competitive. But like I said, this is a PG-rated show. So I don't know how much we can share.
All right, so I want to talk more about the 1990s and that particular time that you were playing. That's it, to me. I mean, maybe it's because I was in college, but it was a real golden age of ACC basketball. I mentioned you played with Rodney Rogers, you played with Tim Duncan, you played against Joe Smith, Jerry Stackhouse, Rasheed Wallace. Talk about the talent level back then.
I think it was there's always been great periods in the ACC. And if you talk to someone from the 80s, there's a lot of iconic players, but when you get players like Tim, comes out and obviously finishes up being one of the top 10 player of all time. The league was just tough. I don't care if it was the mid 80s, the early 80s, you had the Sampson, you had so many dominant players. You had Bias, obviously Jordan in Carolina. So there's so many historical, just great players that when you mention a game of basketball, you can't mention it without those players. And so, we all like our time. I will say this. I think the 90 through the mid 90s teams were much better and deeper. I think because of when the NBA kind of came in and when they changed the rules, I thought everyone tried to beat the rush for the salary cap. Remember when they not salary cap, they had changed the rookie signing contract, the length of the contracts. So everyone, remember Kevin Garnett left high school, Rasheed Stack, and now the one and done era is here, and everyone kind of transitions up. But back then, you had to be a heck of a player to leave as a junior. You had to be the Grant Hill-esque type, the Rodney Rogers.
Yeah.
You had to be really, really good to leave as a junior. Sophomores and freshmen, you didn't even think about that. Back then, now it's kind of the norm. But so you back then you tend to wait your turn, and so there's a lot of depth. When I got to the league, I played as a freshman, but it was Kenny Anderson, it was Bob Hurley, it was Chris Corciani. I mean, it was murder's row as far as guards. So I took my licks, when I got in the league, and so as I matured and got older in my career, I had to pay those guys back for what happened to me guarding those type of players.
Absolutely. Well, talk about choosing Wake Forest, because we all, know the triangle schools, but what made Wake Forest so special?
Oh, wow. Coach Odom did, for one. I mean, he had just taken over the program, so his energy, his passion kind of resonated with me. He had came from Virginia, and he had been in our gym recruiting. I mean, I played in high school in Falls Church, Virginia. Aaron Bain and George Lynch were two of my teammates. Aaron Bain went to Villanova, and George went to Carolina. And so all the coaches was in our gym recruiting during that time, and that's where he noticed me. And when he transitioned over to Wake, but I would have to say my decision to go to high school, going to Flint Hill Prep in Virginia, was my first time going to private school. And so I was an average student in public school. It was just so much. I was so easily distracted. And then when I got to private school, probably a 10-1 or 12-1 student body to teacher ratio. And academically, I just took off the individual attention. I became an honor roll student at that point. So when it got time to choose college, it was like, okay. Many of the young players wouldn't remember how strong the Big East was at that time. And the old Big East was really just as good as any conference in the country.
Absolutely.
And then the ACC. So we had Maryland. At that time, Maryland was still in the ACC. Obviously, Georgetown in the Big East. Yeah. And so I had the two teams at home that I was looking at. One of my close friends who recently passed, Charlie Harrison, had went to Georgetown. So that kind of filled the need they had. Maryland got put on probation. It was Gary Williams' first year. So that kind of ruled those guys out. Carolina, Seton Hall, and Wake were my other three schools in my Final Five. And so PJ Calissimo was at Seton Hall, and I kind of wanted to get away from home. And so it came down to Wake and Seton Hall, and I took my visits. I enjoyed them both, but Wake being a private school and that transition experience that I had at Flint Hill made my decision a lot easier to come to Wake. And Rogers, let's say that.
I was gonna say again, like you heard me tell the story. So I had to guard that guy in high school for and it was only for 2 minutes because the other two guys on my team got hurt. I was a JV player. I got pulled up to varsity, and I was the third guy on the bench. He fouled out. Both of the two guys on the bench had 2 fouls. We're in the first quarter still. They had 4 total. We're spreading the fouls out. I was in the game for 2 minutes, and I know he dunked on me at least once. I can't remember if it was twice. He was, first of all, the nicest guy ever. But so the way people talk about LeBron, I don't think that anyone realizes because there wasn't high definition TV how yoked that guy was.
You probably fouled out in those 2 minutes, by the way.
Yeah, right? No, I mean, you can't. There's nothing else you can do.
Candace, seriously. I've said this recently to someone. He's the most physically gifted athlete to ever walk on Wake Forest campus. He's definitely the most physically gifted athlete to ever wear a jersey. That's not even debatable. It's not debatable. I don't know if there was a better athlete to ever walk on the campus. And that's today. And we're talking 30 years later. No one. I mean, he didn't need to touch the weight room. He didn't have to go in the weight room. I used to get in trouble because I tried to hang with him. He didn't need to know that Coach would say a word. And Coach was running me to death because I would skip a workout section in the weight room. So he was, I mean, as physically gifted of an athlete. Like I said, that's just the best way I can describe it. I personally have never been around. I mean, just didn't need to touch weights. Just walked around. He looked like he was a cartoon character, like someone just drew him.
Mhm.
Wow. That's how I wish I felt now. But talk about if you talk about Wake Forest now and you came back and you're coaching these guys, and how hard are you on them? Because you've seen greatness. You've seen guys like Ronnie Rogers. You've seen what it takes to be at an elite level. How do you pour into these guys positively?
You know what? What I do is just I share those experiences when they're needed and when I feel it fits their situation.
Mhm.
But I don't expect them to relate to anything. The game has changed. Everything about the league has changed. So I've adapted to those. But some things, the path that they're traveling on, I've experienced that. So I always share to those guys, hey, I've been down this road. And so I share the experiences that I had, here at Wake. And I think that's beneficial to them. And that would be the biggest thing that I say I try to do with them. And no different than any other coach, any other school for that matter, and sharing and kind of teaching them the game. But for me, it's just I try not to relate too much to what we did and how things work, because the game is different, the style of play is different, and everything else. But I do try to relate to how they're feeling and how life on campus and everything that they're going through. Just try to help them navigate that as well, as far as teaching them the game as well.
All right, so this is the question I've wanted to ask you this entire time. I've been waiting for it.
Mhm.
I had to coach my daughter on a soccer team when she was 3 years old. My daughter, your daughter is out there. You love her so much. You want her to do well.
Right.
You want to treat her like all the other people. And she wants to be treated like all the other people until you say something that ticks her off. And then she gives you that look where you feel guilty for the rest of your life.
Right.
You are now coaching your son in a Division I program. I want to know how you manage this with Brandon.
Wow. My wife was looking at me, rolling her eyes.
I figured.
My wife was rolling her eyes at me. Oh, wow. I'll say this: it was the best experience of my life. The 4 years of being with him were better than the 4 years I experienced as a player, and I can honestly say that.
Wow.
Obviously, we had tremendous amount of success, when I was here as a player. But for me personally, being here with him during that time, like I miss him now. Like I have said this recently, because he's no longer, he's no longer here. He's playing professionally in Greece, and I miss him. I got used to that guy coming by the office. But to your point, it was an adjustment. Prior to, this is a true story. I tell you this. Something happened with him. He didn't do something that I wanted him to do around the house. This is in high school. I jumped on him, and I'm like, I'm giving him business, like, better. And so he's angry with me. And I'm like, I don't care. We're not friends. I'm your father, so I don't care if you get upset. So he's not talking to me for a couple of days. I don't care. So the next thing you know is one day I'm in my office, and Manning comes down the hallway and says, Brandon wants to play in his dad's footsteps. He says he's coming to Wake. I grab my phone and look, and then it's all over Twitter. It's like what in the? So I'm like, okay, it's fine. So
wait, so Danny knew it before you did? I'm sorry, I just have to jump in.
Yeah, he told Danny
Wow.
about it. And he felt bad about it afterwards. And we got a great relationship. We were well past it, but like I told you, it was one of those conversations, one of the rare times we did it. And I told him, I said, listen, I'm not your friend. I'm your dad. So your attitude, I don't care. You live in my house. I don't. The same spiel you all give your kids. You live in my house. I don't live in yours. And he was a little upset about that. So I knew he was coming. It wasn't a matter of time. But when he actually said he was making a decision, he didn't tell me. But we went through, and as I'm coaching, so I fast forward to him coming to Wake and being here. He wasn't mature enough early in his career to separate. All right, when you're on the floor, I'm coach. But when we're off the floor, I'm dad. And on the court, I would coach him, and I would get on him, and I would, and coach him hard. And I always tell our players, it's like, listen, I'm gonna coach you. I'm gonna be tough, but I'm gonna love you harder. I'm gonna love you more. And so no different than him. He knew that, but he didn't always handle it well. So when he would come home, dinner would be awkward, which is why I got that look from my wife, was that he couldn't separate coach. And then he come home, and man, we're sitting at dinner and nobody's talking, or he wouldn't want to come home for dinner and all this. And I got to hear this from my wife, like, what happened? And I'm like, so he's, they're having their side conversations, and she's giving me the cold shoulder, and I need to be more sensitive to this. And now I'm getting upset because I'm like, you're breaking up a happy home right now. got real problems now. So
we need to turn the computer to your wife right now, and I need to know what she's how are you feeling about all this? Hello, by the way.
Hello. He's not telling the whole story.
Tell the truth. Please tell us the truth.
Hey, no. She's cut off right now. She's muted. This is my truth right now.
Go ahead and rotate it back. Go ahead and rotate that back. There we go. All right, let's hear the whole story.
Give us the truth.
He slept in the living room on the couch a couple of times. And by he, I mean Randolph Childress. Because nobody talks to my son like that.
Period.
All right, thank you so much.
We love that.
Randolph, I've been in your shoes. That's all I'm going to say.
I would be the same way. I would be the same way.
Right. And so like, and my daughter's playing tennis now. She's like a competitive tennis player. She wants to play in college. So I work with her. I try to coach her, but also be her dad. But it's impossible not to blur that line sometimes.
It's so hard because it's like my biggest thing was just trying to say to him, everything that you're trying to accomplish is so hard. And my thing was preparing him for. Now we had to, we also had to manage the expectations, right? We had to manage you're not me, and that's okay. And so, and it was more so from the people on the outside. You have people like, "Oh, I'm going to make you better than your dad," and you had all this, and it just got insane. And I'm like, you know what, Brandon? I got to a point, and I used to say to him, I never would talk about how things were when I was a player, but I used to say to him, I said, Brandon, I'm still, last time I checked, second leading scorer in this school, over 2,200 points or so, whatever it was. I said, so if we're not holding every guard that's here and that has been here and that will be here to that standard, why are you trying to be held to that standard? Just because we have the same last name. So don't, Randolph Childress hasn't worn a uniform in 30 years. So let that be, be your own, be Brandon. Brandon's good enough. And so, it was a lot for him. And it took a while for me to kind of understand that too, as well. The other side of it. It wasn't just the pressure from me, the pressure that he was feeling from other people. And that's where we all kind of, as a family, where my wife helped me with that.
And I bet your wife helped you with this too. Has she ever told you? My wife told me this. It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
How you say
it. Yes. So sometimes we do screw that up. And sorry. Yeah.
But see, I blame it on the coach. Like as a coach, I'm allowed to say it to everybody, right? I'm allowed to coach. I'm a coach.
But you can't.
And he would admit he didn't always separate it, right? He didn't always separate the difference between the two. And as he got older, we became even closer because of that.
How is he doing over there in Greece with everything that's going on?
He's doing well. He had his first game this past Saturday. Finished practicing enough time to watch it. He played really well. He's fortunate enough to be in a Euro League, which travels around, a team that travels around Europe quite a bit. And they won, and he's happy about it. But right now, just like us, they're struggling with COVID, and he's trying to figure out if they're even going to be able to finish their season as well.
Randolph and Candace, just really quickly, I'm letting you know my son is here. He wanted to know about Randolph Childress, so I'm going to real time show him the crossover move real quick. And he did this to a Carolina. Watch this. He knocks over Jeff McInnes, and he tells him to look. He looks down at him, tells him to get up, and then rips the jumper. This was 25 years ago. That's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
It's like one of the most famous moments in ACC history, especially because Jeff McInnes, and I'm a Tar Heel fan, apparently was talking a little bit of John. So I'm just filling you in on this. That was pretty cool, huh? And that's Randolph Childress right there.
Hi.
And his son just graduated from Wake Forest. He's an assistant at Wake Forest. All right. So the new generation knows about you now.
There you go.
There we go. Perfect. So talk about, what you want to be known for when you leave your legacy at Wake Forest. It's all said and done. As a coach, as a player, what do you want to be most known for?
I think the biggest thing I want to be known for is obviously, I think for me, it's a great family man, a loving person. I bend over backwards, not just for Wake Forest. I think I'm involved in the community as much as I can. Just trying to help to be a voice for everyone, in the community around. I mean, so more important now because we're in such a divided time. So, to be as helpful as I can in this community is big to me. It's important to me. aside from my job, is to have an impact on these kids for the rest of their lives. I try to do that beyond actually the men's basketball, with women's basketball, with football, with every sport. I've had relationships with as far as mentoring in a sense, with the women's staff and their players and just trying to help as many people as I can. It's something that I've been fortunate enough to do. And I think as long as I'm doing this, I'll continue to do so with a high level of character as well.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
Well, hey, Randolph, thank you so much for giving us 30 minutes of your time. Thank you for letting us into your home and letting us meet some of your family and hearing some fun stories. I would not be surprised, Candace, I'm sure you wouldn't, if we don't see him roaming the sidelines as a head coach real soon.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you so much for coming on. Okay, make sure you guys, we're going to wrap up here, but it's important. We won't be on next week because we know you're all going to be busy at the polls, voting, standing.
Well, is there something going on next week?
I don't know. It might be something really important.
But no, I'm sorry, I interrupted you because you were about to say something very important.
Go vote.
Go vote. Voting gives you the right to complain. Here's my thing, right?
There you go.
If you don't vote and I'm having an argument with you politically and you say, well, I didn't vote, I win that argument immediately.
There's nothing else to say.
Yes, just vote. Yeah. We're not telling you who to vote for. Just vote.
No, just vote. Exercise your right. That's all we're saying here.
Absolutely.
But we'll see you after that. And we appreciate you guys coming on again. Hope you have a great rest of your evening.
Thanks for tuning in to Guest to Guest Live, brought to you by Earfluence and live on the 99.9 WRAL Sports Fan Facebook page. We will be taking 2 weeks off and come back on Tuesday, November 17th at our new time, 9 o'clock Eastern, where you continue to test your ACC basketball knowledge. Remember to go vote on November 3rd, and we'll see you again soon on Guest to Guest Live.